Hey guys, welcome back. Today we have a special treat courtesy of Giovanni, not the Team Rocket Giovanni, a different one. So we have some actual data entered into Excel sheets. We'll take a look at the graphs at the end. We'll take a look at his findings, what he got from, I guess, the output, his interpretations. And I'll let you guys comment down below if you see anything that he didn't notice or that I didn't notice. I'll see if I can add some, I guess, commentary to these. A lot of it finds similar, stuff to the previous video. I'll put a link to that up there. We didn't enter anything into the Excel sheets. We just kind of took a look at whether or not it was easier to get those 10 grades without subgrades or with subgrades. Where CGC had mentioned that they grade them differently, or at least implied such by saying that it takes longer 3 to 4 times longer for a card with subgrades to be graded. So if they were grading them the same way, again, it would take the same amount of time or close to the same amount of time, not 4 times longer. But yeah, let's see what we got here. I think these are different sets than the ones that I looked at. So that's a nice touch as well. Thank you to him. If you guys want to thank him in the comments, a little thanks, Giovanni. So let's read through here. Data taken Friday, April 29th. So just in case anyone needs to refer back to this or is like, hey, no, that's not the case anymore. They might have added cards since then. It's been a little while since he sent this over to me. So it's subject to change depending on what they do with their numbers, if they add more data, if they're constantly adding data. I'm not totally sure exactly when or how they do their updates, if it's like a regularly scheduled thing, if maybe every night. Who knows? If you know, let me know, because I don't know. Did not include cards graded lower than a 3.5. I can't imagine why anyone's grading cards lower than a 3.5. Other than the crazy collectors that want like the one of every grade kind of thing, and they're just trying to get ones. Sets used were mostly selected because they have huge populations of graded cards. For comparison reasons, I used 2 old sets. Cards might be in worse condition, and 2 new sets. I used about the 10 most heavily graded cards on each set, including some high-end and some low-end for comparison, except based on limited, it includes more cards. So here we have the populations of the 4 sets that we'll be taking a look at. Your base unlimited, Team Rocket First Edition, Vivid Voltage, and Shining Fates. There is a clear trend to give base set 8.5. There is a lopsided trend to give new sets 9. So we know the meme, everything from CGC gets an 8.5. Apparently in base set it's heavily true, but we'll take a look at that as we go through here. For most of the sets, excluding base set, more on that later, the no subgrades outnumber the subgraded cards, which is interesting. But in these sets, again, excluding base set, the grade distribution is heavily lopsided towards higher grades, 9 or higher, which makes sense. They're new cards, so they're going to be graded higher. Also, people put more value in base set unlimited, which they probably shouldn't because there is a disgusting amount of it out there. If you're not getting pre-boom, for anyone that wasn't around for it, if you weren't getting a 10 on base unlimited cards, you weren't sending in base unlimited cards, and that's in a PSA 10. We're not talking any other grading company that maybe doesn't have quite that premium at this point in time. So base set unlimited. All right, we'll look through here. We have all the data. We don't need to necessarily look at that. I can only imagine how much time it took to punch all this stuff in. So he has his opinions here. First one says, cards that are less sought after are clearly more scrutinized than others, as can be seen with the top 16 holos in the set versus the starter Pokemon. That's sort of interesting. I guess the starter Pokemon would have more value. Again, it's base unlimited, so hard to say here. It could also be that people are sending in more of these starters, regardless of condition, where maybe they don't necessarily want to send in like a a magneton with scratches all over it. Maybe they see value in a Venusaur with scratches all over it. So I'm not totally sold on this. None of the holos have a pristine 10, which is pretty wild. Here, the grades are more evenly distributed. The grade with the highest number is 8.5. It accounts for 21% of the grades. I suspect because this is base set, even if it is unlimited, it is more scrutinized than other sets. So I don't know if it's the scrutinized thing or people just think there's value where there probably isn't that much value, that it's popular. If these are childhood sets, I guess maybe it seems like they're more scrutinized. People are more likely to send them in, even if they're, beat to shit, been in their pocket since 99. The difference can be seen here with other sets where here, even though no subgraded cards outnumber the subgraded cards, the higher grades do not account for most of the population. So, interesting enough here, we have significantly more no subs, and this could be like the casual collector, grader, investor, stalker 69, which doesn't want to pay the extra money for the subgrades. But it probably worked out in their favor, as we've seen with most of these sets. The no subbers definitely tend to get those 10s more often. But neat little distribution here. We'll take a look at the graphs at the very end. He has some on there. So next up, we have Team Rocket First Edition. So opinions here. Pristine 10 cards consist mostly of no subgraded cards for this set, all of them, which is pretty interesting. We saw almost all of them in Aquapolis, so that's just a matter of, if you don't have to put those subcategories on there, then maybe it's just easier to get the 10, easier for the grader to just say, yeah, it's probably a 10. If they're spending 30 seconds on a card, you're gonna, I guess, accidentally get more 10s in that case. Cards in which the population consists of mostly no subgrade submission have a heavy 8.5 or higher population, suggesting no subgraded cards are graded higher. Maybe they do not have comparables. So that's the thing too. I mean, we can do this with every set. I'm not asking anyone in particular to do it with every set. It'd be really awesome if someone had the ability to actually pull all the data and create this scenario. These maps or these graphs for every single set would be nice. Once it's in Excel, then it's a non-issue to be able to calculate what you're looking for, what we're looking for, trends and such. But time consuming, and at the end of the day, is it even worth it? We kind of already know that they grade in different ways, so to expect them to end up having a realistic outcome is asking for a little much. Even if the entire population of a card consists of mostly no subgraded cards, the score should be spread out more without so much concentration on higher grades, about 50% for balanced versus 70% for mostly no subgrade cards. As can be seen with a Dark Charmeleon, all of the 9.5 population consists of no subgraded cards. That's pretty cool. Higher end cards, in this case holo versions, have a higher population of subgraded cards. I would think that in general they would probably be less likely to give 0.5 grades. In general, if you're just winging it and you're not like actually using the subgrades, like the subgrades using the calculation would probably, at least the way I see it, they would probably end up averaging out once they do the calculation to give you more 0.5s. So that'd be interesting to look at as well. Where the population was about the same for both, subgraded cards outperformed no subgraded cards. See Dark Charizard non-holo. Very nice. Low-end cards are clearly less scrutinized than higher-end cards. I guess in terms of like the non-holos and stuff. 64.4% of the cards are grade 8.5 or higher. 72.4% of the cards are no subgrade cards. Interesting. So here we have it. No subs is still heavily bashing on the subs. But another scenario where we're seeing trends. We're seeing differences between the two grading types. Now, on to Shining Fates, one of two modern sets that he put together here. Opinions say the trend for this set is a 9. Almost all of the grades are 9. There are more 9 grades than the sum of all other grades, which is pretty wild. Somebody was handing out 9s. 91.5% of all graded cards are 9 and above, which is pretty wild to think. Even Pack Fresh and with Shining Fates, if this is including the baby shinies, so I guess maybe they weren't. If anyone's familiar with or has submitted a lot of baby shinies, did the baby shinies get dinged for the silvering? Because all the ones I've seen, they're pretty silver around the edges. It's almost like a throwback, a little retro thing to like your Jungle Fossil, where the blades weren't sharp enough, and so you had silvering straight out of the pack. 63.7% of the cards are no subgrades, with 91.5% of the cards grading 9 or above. It would be consistent to say no subs grade higher, which is kind of what we've seen, but again, different scale. Yeah, pretty much that. I guess different set of, if they're trained differently, if it's a different set of graders that are always doing the non-sub versus the sub, then you're just going to see, it's just going to act like it's a different grading company, essentially. Vivid Voltage. All right, so here's the Vivid Voltage data for anyone wondering what it looks like. That's it. It's a bunch of numbers. Opinions, again, as in Shining Fates, almost all of the cards are graded a 9. The 9 grade cards are more than the sum of all other grades. 85.7% of cards graded 9 or higher, with 63.1% of the cards submitted being no subs, and with 85.7% of cards graded 9 or higher, it would suggest no subs are graded higher. So again, another scenario here where your no subs are higher. They're more likely to hit those higher grades. It'd be interesting to see. Again, I had a couple people message me and said that if you get the pristine 10, that they will still keep it a 10, even if you add subgrades if it didn't have it beforehand. So if anyone has experience with that, again, send it my way. I'd love to see it. And now, last but not least, we'll see the statistics page here. I'll try and move out of the way. But we have the distribution of grades for Base Set Unlimited. So I think the biggest thing from looking at the bar graphs here is the fact that something with the vintage set is going to have a lot more of these lower grades where people are grading more of it. I mean, it's older, so there's going to be more damaged copies. It's crazy to me that people are grading anything in this area because I guess if you're under the impression that all of it just makes money because it's in a plastic case, that's probably why people are sending it in. But at the same time, if you want to go back a couple of years, and probably even at this point, this is the oopsie doopsie, why did I grade this category, junk slabbers, regardless of what grading company. So like, no one wants Base Unlimited and low grades. They didn't beforehand. I guess they temporarily did. Maybe there's a little bit still of people wanting it now, but I'd say for the most part, this is waste of money. Shining Fates, you see here that it's there's just straight up nothing in those lower grades, or close to nothing in those lower grades, because it's brand new stuff. Why are you sending it in if it's damaged? How did you damage it if you plan on grading it? Kind of thing. And when it's packed to... It's got kind of the story in general about modern grading modern cards is just maybe someday we'll start to see these lower grades. So here we have Team Rocket First Edition. Maybe someday we'll start to see the graph turn into this with the modern stuff when people grade it years from now with the grading companies that are still around, or maybe even new ones at that point in time. Once the cards have time to actually get damaged. At this point in time, unless you're intentionally doing it, there's not a whole lot of reason that your new stuff would do that. Again, if you guys have any findings or anything that you see from these graphs, from the video in general, or anything that you'd like to take a look at, or if you've done any of this on your own and would like to share, please reach out to me. Again, thanks to Giovanni for this, for putting this together. Vivid voltage here. As you can see, same scenario where basically just everything's a 9. You might as well just call it a 9. Take your penny sleeve and write a 9 on it, because that's probably what it's coming back as if you're sending in modern cards. Very cool. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Also interesting to see with more sets here that the confirmation, the differences in grading subs and non-subs is still apparent. I mean, it's kind of predictable that it would be, even if they trained to try to make it similar, it's still not the same process, so it's still not going to end up giving you the same results. Whether or not it would be less glaringly obvious that it's doing that, who knows? But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Join the Discord. See you next time.